Marjorie Taylor Greene was on Matt Gaetz's new podcast, because of course he's got a podcast called Firebrand, to talk about everything from vaccine passports to January 6th. Now, the topic of big tech and big pharma came up, and Greene decided to elaborate on her theory of corporate communism. What is that? Well, let's hear.
Think about this, though. All throughout history, every time we've seen a country follow into Marxism, and as that changes, this is what happens, and it's happening right now in America. The small businesses get crushed, and it's the big corporations that get rewarded by the government, and they meld together.
Totally.
And we have seen that big tech has already done it. We're seeing it with big pharma. We're seeing it with, contractors, people that win big government contracts. These large corporations
the military-industrial complex.
Military-industrial complex is a major issue. So I have a term for that. I call it corporate communism. Corporate communism destroys small businesses in America, and I have a very good example from my district. They destroy the small businesses, and the corporations gain all the control, and they can't be defeated. And they do the bidding of the government, like they're doing. Biden's saying, the government's not going to mandate vaccines, but the big corporations are doing it. Corporate communism, they're putting the policy in place through their businesses on their employees and on their customers, like we've seen with the airlines.
All right, so corporations are allegedly doing the bidding of the government. You mean the government officials who take massive bribes from corporations so they're deregulated, so that antitrust regulations aren't implemented or applied or enforced? So what she's saying about massive conglomerates or these massive corporations eating up smaller companies to create these monopolies, that's true.
Yes.
So she seems, she's not all lost, right? She seems to recognize a real problem. It's just that her solutions to that problem and her, I guess, what she thinks has led to this problem isn't right at all. She thinks that the government is pushing for monopolies when in reality the government is bribed to avoid preventing the monopolies from happening in the first place, and they're bribed by the very corporations that she's complaining about. And by the way, she should know it. She takes their bribes. She knows it.
Yeah. So I love this clip. I can't wait to break it down. It's got a big upside in there, by the way. And of course it has a big downside. So I've kind of made an internal pledge to myself, which I talked about in the beginning of the show, where I'm gonna try not to call Republicans names. We did a poll on it. It was about anti-vaxxers, but we've done one on Republicans before too, tyt.com/polls. We did it on last Friday's show, and I went and voted no for the first time. No, let's not call them names, okay? By the way, I lost 80 to 20. 80%, 82% of you said, yeah, call them names. But man, are they testing me here. Corporate communism? Come on, guys. I mean,
Her eyes lit up when she said it. She's like, I got one for you.
Okay.
Corporate communism. I talk about corporate communism because I don't know what communism is. It just sounds scary. And then I say Marxism too. Ooh, Marxism. I don't know what Marxism is, but it sounds scary. Come on.
Okay, guys.
I just can't. I mean.
Okay, so for folks who don't know, communism is when there is no private property, and hence by definition, there would be no private corporations. There would be no corporations at all.
Corporate communism.
Okay, now capitalism is where you have private property and you have private interest. By the way, in capitalism, you also have the government run some things like the military, the police, and healthcare in most developed countries, or at least healthcare insurance. But those are mixed economies. But capitalism is private industry, i.e. corporations. Communism is no private industry, no corporations allowed. I have to clarify this because a lot of right-wingers don't know it. They literally don't know it. They listen to dumbass podcasts, sorry, I wasn't supposed to do it. Not overly intelligent podcasts like Matt Gaetz, and they have not overly intelligent representatives like Marjorie Taylor Greene. Can I call her Marjorie? Is that good enough? Anyway.
Monopolies are a product of capitalism. Okay,
well,
it is a product of capitalism. Maximizing profits, that is the point of capitalism. In fact, if she read anything from Marx, she would understand that these monopolies that she's complaining about, that is part and parcel. That is a result of capitalism.
Okay.
Right? So anyway.
I want to get to the good news because it's really interesting and really important, believe it or not, in this crazy story. I mean, not overly rational story. But the one thing that Karl Marx and Adam Smith agreed on, Adam Smith, of course, a great writer about capitalism, is that Adam Smith also said, well, monopolies would naturally rise out of capitalism and you have to regulate them. Otherwise, he didn't frame it in this word, but I love this word. Otherwise, you're going to get corporatism, where the corporations kill off the free market for their own benefit. Okay, so both Marx and Adam Smith warned you about monopolies. Meanwhile, she takes it and goes, "Oh, they both were in favor." No, I don't know what she's thinking. It's like I'm done with her. All right,
Marx is scary.
Okay, but guys, one more thing. She has, and this is super important, and not just Marjorie Taylor Greene and Gates. Almost most Republicans believe this. They have it completely backwards. They think the government is making the corporations give them money to help corporations, but why would it be the government that's driving it? The corporations which one's more logical? Corporations are giving millions of dollars to the government so the government can pass rules that give them an unfair advantage so the corporations make more money. Isn't that more logical? Because that is what happens. And that's exactly why they're doing it. And like here, I'll give you one quick example. In New Jersey, Tesla was banned from having dealerships. Why? Because the other car dealerships gave money to the politicians and said, just ban them. We don't care why, just ban them, right? That is those corporate interests telling the government, you must do this and I'm gonna bribe you. It's called the campaign contribution. I'm gonna bribe you so that I make more money. It's not that the government controls the corporations. It's the corporations control the government through the bribes. Now, if you were conservative, you would know that. The old days, conservatives did know that. They don't know it anymore because they got tricked by these demagogues, right? Understand, bribery sucks, corruption sucks, the swamp sucks, which leads finally to the good news. The reason Marjorie Taylor Greene and Matt Gaetz are talking about how evil corporations are is because they realize, our own voters hate corporate rule. And we now have to misdirect them. We have to say, okay, you hate corporate rule, I get you. I can't win if I tell you corporations are great, which is what the Republican Party did for almost their entire existence. So now I'm gonna do one last trick. I'm gonna say you're right about how much corporations suck, but that's because of the government regulations. Make sure you strip away the government regulations so that corporations have more power. What? You would only believe that if you're doing propaganda on behalf of those corporations.
Yeah, see, I call it corporate communism. Now, Matt Gaetz also weighed in on that, so let's hear what he has to say.
I'm not against America having successful businesses.
No.
We want that to happen all over our country. But I also remember a time when the Rockefellers, the Carnegies, the Vanderbilts, they weren't just industry tycoons. They were also statesmen. It was always about our country. And I really fear that with some of these globalist entities, America is less important to them than the next round of stock dividends. And that's not America first. And the neo-libertarians might be a little sensitized to that commentary, but it's just true. And I think we're at a different point in our country where enough is enough with just shouldering or shoveling the responsibilities and proclivities of government onto business, and then having business go execute it on behalf of government, but with that melded corporate communism. Number one threat to our liberty really is big government, but the number two threat is probably big business.
Yeah, Cenk, remember all those robber barons of yesteryear?
Oh.
They were statesmen. Those robber barons were robbing you because they love you.
They were called robber barons.
It's amazing.
And so they were vicious. These guys, they rewrite history. Guys, look, just please, you don't have to trust us. And whatever you do not trust the right-wing media. Go do research on your own. There's tons and tons of books. You remember the thing called books? You could read them, they had real information in them.
You should read Marx.
And
seriously, though.
I mean, by God, if you're a right winger, forget Marx, just read anything, read Adam Smith, read anything that has history and reality in it. The robber barons were not pro-America. They stripped this country bare for their own profit and crushed average Americans on the way. That's why they were called robber barons. This idea that, oh my God, if you just let big companies and the really, really wealthy do whatever they want, we could get rid of corporate communism.
The Rockefellers did the right thing, Cenk. They were statesmen.
And the only question I have, and this is a legitimate question, is, are these two knuckleheads really that unintelligent? Or do they know and they think, this is perfect. All my voters are pissed against corporate rule, but my donors are corporations, so I'm gonna trick them into helping my donors. What a bunch of rubes. I don't know the answer to that. But either way, it is damning. Thanks for watching The Young Turks, really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR, so those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.